waiting for 5 minutes already. I guess I'll just call him. Oh, hey.
Hello?
Dude, it sounds like you just woke up. Are you coming for the interview?
Oh my gosh.
What, did you forget? Seriously, we need
Wait,
you here in
right
like
now?
yeah, in like 5 minutes. Are you ready?
Oh,
Seriously, are you ready to go
dude,
or
I
not?
totally forgot.
Oh, man.
No, I haven't even showered yet.
How long does it take you to shower? Honestly, can you get over here in maybe like 10 minutes? 5 minutes would
Okay.
be ideal.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Man, seriously, like
Man.
these interviews need to happen.
I am so sorry.
Dude, we'll talk about it when you get here, honestly.
Okay.
Just get here.
Bye.
All right, we'll just get started. What's up, Thirst? This is Trent at Faith Community Bible Church, and I want to start this short talk off with just a very simple question. What do you do with conflict? When two or more people are fighting or conflicted over a possession, over a position, or a main point, how do you respond to that conflict? Now, our main point today that we're going to be focusing on is that the gospel is clarified and our relationships are actually strengthened in the context of conflict. And during this season, as we're all with our family relationships and in our human relationships, we might be feeling a degree of drama because every human relationship and every human being is designed for deep, close, intimate fellowship with other human beings. But it's actually difficult to establish relationships in the context of that closeness because of sin. So in our passage today, we're going to see actually a high degree of conflict that's going to be illustrated for us, and we're going to have the text walk us through how we deal with that conflict. Now, the conflict that we're going to talk about, it's not just a minor conflict, like who's going to get to play the Xbox next, or who gets the keyboard or the computer time, or who's the most important member of your class or the smartest in your grade. The conflict is actually dealing with the nature of salvation, and there could be no deeper conflict than this idea. So, oh, you know what? This is supposed to be an interview.
Dude, I am so sorry.
Oh my gosh. Hey, do you mind if I just read the text? Seriously, I am so sorry. Where are we at again? Oh, Acts 15, 1-5. Okay, let me just read this. Hi, guys. But some men came down from Judea. Oh, by the way, this is Acts 15, 1-5. Some men down... Seriously. Okay, here we go. But some men came down from Judea and were teaching the brothers, unless you are circumcised according to the custom of Moses, you cannot be saved. And after Paul and Barnabas had no small dissension and debate with them, Paul and Barnabas and some of the others were appointed to go up to Jerusalem to the apostles and the elders about this question. So being sent on their way by the church, they passed through both Phoenicia and Samaria, describing in detail the conversion of the Gentiles, and brought great joy to all the brothers. When they came to Jerusalem, they were welcomed by the church and the apostles and the elders, and they declared all that God had done with them. But some believers who belonged to the party of the Pharisees rose up and said, "It is necessary to circumcise them and to order them to keep the law of Moses." All right. So you finally made it. Honestly, barely. So I've got a really important question for my interviewee and also for you at home. What do you do in the midst of this kind of a deep conflict? If the Old Testament centers on Jesus and the New Testament centers on Jesus, and our lives ought to center on Jesus, what do we do with all the Old Testament laws? What do we do with people who maybe don't show up on time? What do we do with people that we have conflict with? Maybe you can help me. Well, I think what we see in the text, Trent, if that is your real name, is three really important ideas. And I'm just going to refer to my notes because I'm really not that prepared. But you see in Acts 15, 1-5, that these apostles and disciples and elders and even members of the Pharisees, they actually have the conversation. And dude, I don't know, it just kind of feels like you're being a little bit passive aggressive, but I think it's important as we grow in our fellowship and relationship together that we actually have the real conversations that we need to have, that we actually deal with the key issues. And not only that, but as the person on the receiving end of your passive aggressive nature, I think it's really important that I'm able to state clearly what your beef is with me. And you see this in Acts 15. The apostles can state very, very clearly what the conflict is between them and the members of the Pharisee party. And that is a really key idea of dealing with conflict. Dude, honestly, I'm not being passive aggressive. I just wish you would have gotten here on time, but it's okay. Honestly, it's okay. Like we'll keep the interview going. It's like not a big deal. I mean, everybody at home is fine. Well, Trent, okay, so here's the second thing. See, in dealing with conflict, it's not only important that we're able to state the other person's case clearly, like it's pretty obvious that you're being passive aggressive with me, but we'll deal with that. But the second thing that's important is the reality that I actually showed up in person to deal with this conflict. And you see that with the apostles. The delegation is sent to deal with this conflict in person. They don't send a letter. They don't send a text message, a tech message, if you will. They don't send an email. They don't send any other kind of communication except for communication that is in person. And so, Trent, I'm just wondering, like, can we talk about this a little bit? Dude, seriously, don't make this about me. I'm supposed to be interviewing you, but anyways, seriously, because you showed up so late, I'm just wondering, like, if you're even saved. Yeah, see, Trent, those are the exact kinds of questions that I think end up being degrading and oftentimes destructive in relationships. And you actually see this in verse 5 of this passage, that Luke notes that these are believers who have these deep questions. Here's the question. It is necessary, or here's a statement, it is necessary to circumcise them and order them to keep the law of Moses. This seems like a salvation issue, doesn't it? But you notice that Luke notes that these are believers. So these are Gentiles who have not kept the law of Moses, who have received the Spirit apart from works of the law, so that, as Ephesians 2:8 says, no one may boast, and they receive the benefits of salvation even still. But notice that the apostles, Paul and Barnabas, they don't question the questioner's salvation. That's really key. So as we deal with conflict in our relationships, even key, deep conflicts that we have with other people in our family or our friends, to ask the question of salvation is oftentimes a side issue. We have to deal with these theological matters in a way that's most helpful and edifying for the other person that we're talking to. Now, I just want to make one more note on this. The gospel of God deals with our deepest levels of conflict. Even Jason's been talking about this the last few weeks, the reality that God deals with our deepest problem, and he deals with our deepest problem in just the same way. You notice that God actually has the conversation with us. He addresses sin directly. You notice that God doesn't just sit up in heaven apart from us, hoping that we'll figure the issue out. He comes to us in person in Jesus Christ. And ultimately, he doesn't question the value of us who have been made in the image of God. Despite our flaws, despite our failures, maybe despite me showing up extremely late today, we still have value in God's eyes, and we are desirable to him because he sees us ultimately in Christ. He sees us as people who are blood-bought, purchased, redeemed people who need the grace of God extended. And so Acts 15 deals with this deep heart-level conflict that's within each and every one of us. So I don't know, Trent, does that help? Dude, I think it helps. My heart was in the wrong place when we started this interview, and I think we're in the right place now. Thirst, I miss you guys and can't wait to see you again in person. We'll talk to you guys soon.